Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the New Trends in Crime Insurance webinar. My name is Sherry Branson, and I'm your host today. I'm now joined by Kevin Davis, the president of Kevin Davis Insurance, and Kevin joins me right now from Los Angeles. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, Sherry, how you doing?
Doing great, doing great. I hear you had a little bit of rain out there in Los Angeles, which I know is a welcome relief after all the heat you guys have had.
Yeah, but we don't know how to act when it rains. I mean, it took me about twice as long to get in as it normally does, which is probably a 2-hour commute that
Oh,
one day.
two
Rains
hours.
so much. Yeah.
Oh yeah, when it rains, it's just it's like a snowstorm in other parts of the country. The traffic
Yeah.
is just
Yeah.
yeah,
That's why it's
people
hard to drive. You don't even know where winch wipers are at. You can't even turn them on because you haven't seen them in so long.
I know that's true. That's true. You start to forget you even have windshield wipers.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I saw a funny video that somebody put up on Facebook where it had people in an office and it started raining and they were all running to the windows and videotaping it with their cell phones and
Sure. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
raining and they were, it said this is what happens
It's
when it
not,
rains. And it's
it's
true.
not as funny as it seems. It really is not.
Yeah, you haven't seen it in 8 months. That's a long time.
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
hmm Well, Kevin, we're going to talk about a great topic today. Could you, and welcome everybody. And if you'd like a copy of today's presentation, please send me an email to sbranson@kdins.com and I can send you a copy of it. And you can also listen to it on our website at kdisonline.com. And Kevin, what are you trying to accomplish today? What's the goal of today's webinar?
Well, when we talk about new trends for crime insurance, it's really we're talking about dealing with 21st century issues. Um, that's what we're going to talk about today is what's really happening out there. And mostly it's going to be more about cyber crime itself, more so than the old-fashioned crime we've been dealing with for the past, hundreds of years. So we're going to really talk about that, and it kind of covers your need to really protect your insureds today.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kevin. And Kevin, now you talked about cybercrime. You mentioned that. So what's new in the area of crime insurance and community associations? Is it cybercrime? Is that what you're seeing as far as a trend goes?
Well, I tell you, historically, crime claims will take years to develop. Okay, so we
hmm
had a situation where we had a lady, okay, who her job was to take the quarters out of the washing machine. Yeah, you
Oh,
remember how you used to take quarters in the washing
yes. Yes, we used to, quarters were like precious commodities back then. You'd have bags of quarters and,
machine?
the more the better.
Yep. We had this one lady there. Her job was to take the quarters out, dump them in, and over like a span of 8 years, okay, she ended up embezzling at $200,000 worth of quarters,
Wow,
okay.
that's a whole lot of quarters.
And that's it. So times have changed. We're still seeing those kind of claims that take 8 to 10 years to produce. They still end up taking a lot of money. But the key thing now what we're doing is seeing where technology has dramatically impacted crime across the board. What, what, what,
Absolutely.
when technology is done, was able to get large amounts of data and large amount of information very, very quickly. Okay. Now, if you put that together with the people who are overworked and poor controls, it is just a vast area there for all types of criminal activity like computer fraud, funds transfer fraud, deposits forgery, social engineering, all different kinds of things that we've never seen before in the years and years of us doing this. So we're talking about something new that hasn't happened before. I
hmm
mean, for example, we had a situation where a community manager ended up being reimbursed for $1.2 million of false expenses. Okay? And all he did was use his laptop. He used his laptop, and what he did was he kind of set up false companies, okay, fake invoices, fake expense reports for payments he should have paid for different types of transactions. Now, he got caught and was sentenced to 5 years in jail. The problem was the reason why he got caught was that the fake companies that he developed were poorly named. I mean, his names were really, really bad. And then the mailing addresses didn't match up to anything at all. One of the mailing addresses that he used happened to be an entrance ramp to a freeway.
Oh, wow. Okay. So he embezzled a huge amount of money, but because he was probably rushing to do this crime,
That's it.
he just made a lot of mistakes, like a entrance ramp to a freeway as an address, and like you said, names that, companies that were kind of odd names. So he ended up getting caught in the end, but he was able to embezzle a lot of money.
And that's the key thing here. You're talking about a lot of money in a quick period of time.
Okay. So crime is really changing across the board because of this new technology, and you're seeing it with community association managers, et cetera. And so now you're seeing, like before, crime was kind of a simple type of a crime, the old-fashioned embezzling the quarters, and now it's turned into this advanced cyber crime. So can you talk about why community associations need crime insurance more than ever?
Sure. Sure. You live in a homeowner association, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. And there's a board of directors that oversees your homeowner association.
Yes. Yes.
Now, how do they get elected?
We just vote for them, and then they're elected, and there's really no, checking, no formal, nothing really too formal about it.
And that's the problem. You have these board members, the officers of the company, that are just appointed, and there's no background checks. They raise their hands, say, okay, I'm now the official treasurer, and very little oversight. They have no idea how to really review to make sure that they're doing their job properly. So you have the board of directors with very little oversight over the cash, over the funds. And then what the treasurer does and the board does is says, okay, what we're going to do is turn over all this money to the community association manager. Again, with very little oversight. So what community associations have done is to be able to run a corporation, which a community association is a not-for-profit corporation. You have 100 units, and each unit is worth $100,000 a piece. That's a $10 million operation that they're running. They have to realize that's what it is, but they don't, and they turn over all the money, and all of a sudden it is just an easy situation for them to start. Somebody come in and start really looking at ways to take money that doesn't belong to them.
Absolutely. And Kevin, I know that not too long ago, a bookkeeper was arrested for embezzling money. I'd heard a
Yeah,
situation like that.
yeah. See, what happens is on these community associations, the bookkeeper was like $350,000. The bookkeeper took, and it was so easy because she got away because she handled all the transactions. She handled the company books. She would write the check. She would cash the check, and she ended up writing checks out to herself. So without any oversight, you're making these people pretty easy to become criminals.
Yeah, the community associations are easy targets if there's not a
Yeah.
lot of oversights and not a lot of checks and balances in place. That makes sense.
Mhm.
And so we're talking about crime insurance and how important it is now more than ever for community associations. And we're also talking about new technologies. So what about cyber crime, Kevin? How is that impacting community associations?
Okay, the problem with cybercrime today is that anybody with a computer and internet connection can be a problem for businesses out there. That's all you need are those two things. You can go right now and Google how to embezzle, how to take money, how to use cybercrime, and guess what? You can learn it pretty quickly. The problem is today is that the people out there who are doing these things understand that if they do it, it's hard to get caught. Okay, you can't get your money back, and it happens very, very quickly.
Hmm.
See, um, and the way we did business in the past has changed. I lived in the condominium association, and every month I would mail a check to the management company to pay for my assessments. Now, do you still use checks?
Actually, I use a few checks here or there, but with my HOA dues, I do it online now, Kevin. It's all done
Yeah,
online. Hmm.
and that's the difference is that people are doing stuff online. So what they do is collect and then store unit owners' information, their name, address, banking information, maybe
Sure.
social security numbers. Um, so when they store that information, it is stored on a computer, and people want access to that information.
Hmm. And Kevin, community associations, they're small businesses and management companies. A lot of the management companies are small businesses as well. I would think they'd be especially vulnerable to this because they don't have the giant IT departments or firewalls or protections in place that a lot of larger businesses have.
Exactly. And what they promise is convenience and speed. And with convenience and speed, do you still have the security and privacy that you really need? Are the funds protected? So that's the question right now. Are the funds protected?
Hmm. And I would think that these cyber attackers, they're going to follow the path of least resistance and go after the smaller companies that don't have the protection in place.
Exactly. And that's what we're talking about here. With cybercrime, we're talking about getting access to that person's computer, getting the personal identifiable information out there, and what they really want to do is the unauthorized fund transfer. They want to be able to take money out of the computer. They want to get the information so they can use ID theft. They want to get your name, your address, your phone numbers, and your banking information, credit card information. But they also want to get in there and get access to funds to transfer funds out of the computer into their own bank account.
Oh,
So if they
how would they
authorize
accomplish?
funds, that's the
Oh,
key.
go ahead. Sorry. How would they do that, Kevin? How would they accomplish that?
Okay, well, first of all, and this is a situation we've seen recently where a board member received a link requesting information related about the community association. All right, and what happened was once you click on that link, okay, the criminal is able to get access to the board member's email account and get access to his password. Now, once he has access to the password, the email address and the password, he now has access to the person's contact list. And because most people only use one password for everywhere and everything, now he probably has access not only to his corporate information, but social networking information, and maybe even banking information as well.
Hmm. So really, they can contact their friends and family members through their social networks and hack those people as well and email those people. So it just kind
Mhm.
of keeps going on and on and on.
Yep. Mhm.
And I've also heard situations where employees or former employees have committed crimes, Kevin.
Yeah, and that's the key thing because once people leave a company, okay, people forget to cancel their passwords. For example, there's a thief who stole 30,000 credit records from their employer in New York, and the person committed the crime for 2 years after he left the company. Can you imagine that 2 years after he left the company, the cost is estimated to be about $100 million.
Mm, unbelievable. Wow. That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, you don't hear in the old, back in the days when crime was more simple, you wouldn't hear of thefts that happened after they've left.
And not that kind of money. He just simply used the same password he's been using ever since he worked there. The people who worked there, people who lived there, the people who were involved there just forgot to cancel the password.
Something as simple as canceling a password.
Yeah. And just think of all the people out there, okay, who work for a company who are disgruntled or angry and believe they're justified for doing any kind of dishonest act.
hmm
There's a lot of them out there.
And this type of activity could go on for years. He did it for a couple years. I mean, it could go on longer than that. They could basically wipe out an association or a
Mhm.
company.
Yeah.
And
Because
Kevin,
it's hard. Once it happens, it's very, very difficult to catch the people who are doing
yeah, because it's all done online. It's all done
it.
online. What proof do you have? They can wipe out, they can throw their computer, wipe out their computer, wipe out the records. I mean, there's things that they can do if you're savvy with a computer. And now, Kevin, with all these crimes going on, you're saying $100 million in theft. I mean, 1.2 million by another person. What is a coverage situation? I mean, what should somebody be looking for when they're looking for coverage for their association as far as crime goes?
All right, Sherry, the problem is this, is that you have to make sure you have adequate coverage to protect the funds of your clients. There are 5 items here that we've run into that stops them from being what's called adequate coverage. Okay? The first one is the proper coverage wasn't purchased. Now, from a historical point of view, employee dishonesty was the only coverage that was purchased. They never purchased deposit forgery or computer theft, wire transfer. None of that stuff was ever purchased. Now, all of a sudden, because of technology, it's imperative that you have all the other coverages. And we'll outline them later on in the presentation. But the big problem right now is there are coverages out there that you have to have that people don't have right now. The second problem is the limits themselves. Um, you have to have the proper limit. One of the problems that we've seen in the past is that when there's an embezzlement, money missing, it's usually a lot larger than the limit they had on the policy. And now, because of cybercrime today, it is no way you can even determine how much of a limit it be. Once you get access to somebody's computer, you get access to their banking system, all of a sudden you have access to everything. You can take their reserve account, you can take the operating account, you can take it all out of there very, very quickly. So you got to make sure you have an appropriate limit of liability for the crime policy. The third area is third-party coverage. Third-party coverage is really tricky because it's the number one complaint I get because people who live in community association have doormen or maintenance workers who has access to the individual unit. Now, the association itself is not responsible for what goes inside the unit. So if they hire somebody to bring in a package, they tell somebody to bring in a package, but they come in and shut the water off, that person tries to steal something, painting or jewelry or money, and he goes out there, that is not a association-related, I mean, it's association-related problem, but they're not acting in the direction of the board. So the problem is that you need third-party coverage there to make sure you pick up those third-party situations right there. So that's number 3. Number 4 is prior knowledge of dishonesty. For nonprofits exclusively, or not exclusively, pretty much so, they have a thing about hiring people who committed a dishonest act in the past, said that they are now new and improved, they've been forgiven, and they give them the same job they had before. If you give the same job to somebody who committed a dishonest act in the past, then you cannot be covered again.
Okay. And I have heard that happens quite a bit in the community association industry, Kevin.
Yeah, and it does, because what happens is, on the management side, some of the nice people in the world are your embezzlers. They're outgoing, they're friendly, and then we had a situation where the person had to make restitution, and so he embezzled from board money from another association so he can make restitution for the first one.
Wow.
And they knew who he was, but again, he happened to be one of the most likable people out there, and that's what happened.
Wow. That's unbelievable. So they forgive,
Yeah.
but then it ends up hurting them in the end if that person does it again, because then they have no coverage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 5th area, and this is, again, one of the problems, living in community association is inadequate proof of loss. When there is a loss, the board president has to fully complete the proof of loss and return it alongside with documentation. The problem is, when loss occurs, most of the records are gone, or they have no idea what's happened out there. They know the money is missing, but they can't pinpoint exactly who stole the money, over what period of time, what happened.
Okay. So they really have to do their due diligence and research something when they discover a loss, any type of a loss, and have all their records and have as much as they can anyway in place, maybe get forensic accounting involved or something, to find out what exactly is going on.
Well, the problem is like the situation with the bookkeeper. The bookkeeper stole $350,000, okay? All the bookkeeper had to do is take the laptop with her that she embezzled, and she's gone. You can't find any information. There's nothing there. So it's difficult when you have a small company. It is very extremely difficult.
Absolutely. Okay. Good lessons to learn. Good lessons things to pay attention to. And now, Kevin, we're talking about, trends in crime insurance and trends in the industry. So can you talk about crime insurance today, crime coverage today, with all these changes going on? That, of course, is affecting the insurance, as we just talked about.
Yeah, when we talk about crime insurance, it goes by fidelity bonds or commercial crime or employee dishonesty. It's all the same stuff. We're talking about the misappropriation or the misapplication of money or property entrusted to someone's care, custody, and control. That's what we're looking for, okay, from an employee dishonesty side. Now, the problem right now is that there are different types of crime policies. There's the one you get in the package, and there's a monoline crime policy. The monoline crime policy is what you need today. The package policy is really not really what you need, because coverage is very restricted, okay? They usually don't have the extensions of coverage like computer theft or wire transfer fraud or deposit forgery. They usually have employee dishonesty only. And the thing is that the policy does not extend to non-compensated board members or the management company. So the package policy is very limited coverage. You got to make sure you have your own standalone policy, because today it's critical.
Absolutely. So the package one is more like an endorsement, and it's more bare bones.
Exactly. Your policy is going to respond to computer theft, employee dishonesty, deposits forgery, wire transfer fraud, and something we'll talk about a little bit called social engineering claims.
Social engineering. Okay, that's another new area that we haven't covered before. And now, Kevin, employee theft coverage. Can you define that for everybody to explain exactly what that is?
Sure. Employee theft is coverage for direct loss of money securities by theft or forgery by an employee. Okay, so the key terms there is theft and employee. And theft is intentional and lawful taking of money, securities, or property to the deprivation of the insured. So you have to be intentional and unlawful. That's the two key words, because you can have somebody who takes the money, but they had every right to do it, and it was unintentional and it was lawful. So it has to be those two things. and you have to be an employee. An employee is compensated by wages, salary, and commission. So again, you live in a community association. What kind of wages, salary, and commissions do your board get?
They get zero.
Exactly, yes. So you have to make sure the definition of employee extends to pick up non-compensated board members.
Absolutely. If the
Yeah,
board's not covered, that's a big mistake, I think.
that's where the money's going to be disappear from them.
And what about the property manager, Kevin?
Yeah, coverage should be extended to the property manager. Even though the property manager may have their own crime insurance policy, you should add them as additional insured so that you are fully protected, association is fully protected. Because without them adding their management company, if there is a claim, usually the management company's policy is not have enough limit to go around, and they may not submit a claim. They may say that we didn't do anything wrong. We would never do anything and not submit a claim. So the best thing to do is submit a claim under your own policy because they're additional insured, and that way you get reimbursed at a lot quicker pace.
So you cover all the bases if you have your own crime policy and they have their own crime policy.
True.
That makes sense. Okay. And Kevin, I know in the past that forgery and alteration were big crimes, and they were very there were a lot of situations where this came up. Can you explain what that is and what's going on in that area?
Yeah, it used to be deposit forgery coverage was number 2 behind employee dishonesty, but the use of paper checks are disappearing. You don't use paper checks anymore. Most people use electronic funds transfer, debit cards. I use my iPad and my cell phone.
Watches.
Yeah, they're the Apple Watches. But there are people out there who still prefer writing checks. And when you write checks, it's easy today to forge or alter a check. It is so easy. All you need is a scanner and a printer, and it's a done deal. So the coverage is really inexpensive, and you should have deposit forgery coverage.
We're becoming such a paperless society, that eventually this will probably go away. But for now, people are still using checks, so it's around. And what about money orders and counterfeit money? What is that coverage for?
Yeah, it's kind of the same coverage. Is that you receive worthless money or counterfeit currency in good faith. You receive the money and you think it's real. You receive it in good faith. So when you do get it, then all of a sudden this coverage is for to reimburse you for the situation. And again, it is so easy today to make counterfeit currency, to make worthless money orders.
Yes.
Because all you need is a legitimate check. You need to access that one thing, a little bit of check, and it's a done deal. Computer technology.
What comes to mind is a story that I saw last year of a man in Southern California that was printing $20 bills in his garage off his printer, and he was buying his paper at OfficeMax. And the police were across the street spying on him, from an apartment across the street, and they'd see him pull up with like reams of paper. And eventually he got caught, but his $20 bills looked very real. So it took a while to catch him.
Yeah, and that's what this counterfeit currency coverage is all about. If you do receive those $20 bills, now all of a sudden, instead of being destroyed and you're out of the 20s, you get a chance to get reimbursed through the money order counterfeit currency section of the crime policy.
Okay, so this is very good to have because there is a lot of counterfeit money out there. So this is very good coverage. I don't think that would go away. And Kevin, we're talking about computer crime, and can you explain that portion under the policy? What exactly would that cover, and how do you define that?
Sure. Cyber criminals want to steal money directly from your computer. That's what they want. They want information and they want money. And what they do is they use a variety of techniques. Number 1 is phishing. They love to fish for information. False emails, false websites, malware, they all do it. All they want to do is get to your bank log-on information. They want to do it. And then what they want to do is transfer the money out of your bank and to their bank. Simple as that.
And phishing is phishing, not fishing like fishing, the old-fashioned fishing, right?
Yeah, but it's the same thing now. What they want to do is send out a whole bunch of information that says that, guess what, your bank, you're having trouble with your bank, please contact them immediately by clicking on this link, and we'll be able to help you out. People click on the link, now it's in there, and all they want to do is siphon off as much money as they can as quickly.
And I think all of us, I know I have, I think you have, and I'm sure everybody joining us today has received emails like that where people are looking
Yeah.
for information and they want you to click on a link. Happens every single day.
And we had a situation. Now, you live in Texas, right? You live
Yes.
anywhere in Sugar Land, Texas?
Austin, well, I'm about 3 hours from Sugar Land. It's near,
Okay.
closer to Houston.
Mm. So Crook stole $1.2 million, okay, by computer fraud. Okay, it was a plumbing equipment supply company. The company's operation manager had, hired a forensic accountant to come in there to look at the information, and it showed that the attackers used malware, okay, that was planted in his computer to initiate 43 transfers out of the company's account, all within 30 minutes.
In 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Wow.
30 minutes.
1.2 million in 30 minutes.
1.2 million. Yeah.
So the
Mm-hmm.
speed of this crime and the amount of money that they're able to embezzle so quickly is unbelievable, really.
Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
unbelievable. And it becomes such a nightmare for a company. It could bankrupt a company if they don't find it fast enough.
And they usually do.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's
they don't survive. Yeah.
wow. And now, Kevin, you mentioned funds transfer. Can you explain that a little bit?
Okay. Right now, the number one way we all wire transfer money all the time. Now, the key thing is that if you wire transfer money to people that you know, it's usually not a problem. But wiring money to strangers is very, very risky because it could be a scam. And even if you do send a wire transfer to people who you know, make a phone call to make sure they are the ones getting that money.
Hmm.
Because it's so easy to pretend to be somebody you're not. You know. And
Hmm.
what criminals do, they use these unique things, call it bait. They look at people's emotions and try to get them to get something from nothing. So in other words, if you get one of those emails that says, "Hey, make more money, work from home," you click on it, boom, you got problems. If you say, "Hey, guess what? Great deal on a product or service," click on it, it could be a problem. News that you won some kind of lottery. Okay, you click on it, it's a problem. If it's too good to be true, it usually is.
It usually is, right? Like I won $15 million last year, but
Yeah.
I got one of those. Hmm.
Yeah. Mhm.
Hmm. Interesting. So emails with links in them, with malware and phishing, there's lots of fraud going on out there, Kevin. And earlier
Mhm.
you mentioned social engineering fraud. Now, what
Yeah.
exactly is that?
This is the big one. Social engineering is the art of manipulating people so they give up confidential information, usually by tricking them to giving passwords or bank information. Criminals love to use social engineering tactics because it's much easier to fool somebody into giving them information than it is to hacking inside the information.
Hmm.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. And the phishing attacks target high-level business executives to send this bogus message to employees requesting the fraudulent wire transfer. Now, perfect example is I'm the president of my company. If all of a sudden you're the bookkeeper, and then you see email comes with my name on it and says, guess what? I'm flying to Florida. I want to have $10,000 in there by the time I get there. Now you, as the bookkeeper, say, okay, you
Yeah.
send $10,000 to the bank. I get to Florida. I call you up. And you say, hey, get my $10,000. I said, no, what are you talking about?
Right.
That is social engineering.
Ah, okay. So it's
And
tricking somebody, pretending that it's coming from somebody you know, but at the end of the day, it's a fraudulent, it's a scam.
And the problem is there's no coverage right now available for that because you're giving the money away. You're actually
Mm,
giving the money, okay,
okay.
because you're being tricked into it. They're not taking money out of your system. They're not
Right.
taking money out of,
You're you're
it's not a threat.
voluntarily giving the money away.
They're giving the money away. So,
Ah,
yeah.
that's a
So what we did, we created something called social engineering fraud coverage to protect against this type of situation.
okay. Can you explain that, Kevin? Now, what would that exactly cover? Situations like this, obviously, right?
Okay, what we're saying is this, is that social engineering is a new insurance agreement under the crime policy that will pay the insured for loss from the transferring, paying, or delivering funds caused by social engineering fraud. And again, social engineering fraud is intentional misleading of an employee. Um, that's it. It's an intent to mislead an employee. Now, an employee must be convinced that the request to send money is legitimate, and then therefore acts upon the request. If you get an email from me saying you do it and you believe it's legitimate. So that is social engineering. you see it more and more and more.
Absolutely, yes. With all the emails going around, I've seen a couple of those. And then I've also heard of something, I'm not sure exactly what this is, Kevin, it's called spear phishing.
Yeah, spear phishing is another form of phishing, but it's more specific in terms of they look at your Facebook page. They see that you're out of town.
Okay.
And what they do is they go after that information. They'll say, guess what? You're now in Mexico enjoying yourself. I hate to tell you that your American Express card, you haven't received payment. Please click on it right here, send the money. We'll take care of it for you. So
Oh,
spear phishing is more specific than regular phishing.
okay, gotcha. Okay, now they're targeting you off Facebook or
Yeah.
LinkedIn or whatever. Boy, and people are always putting their vacation pictures up. I'm on vacation having a great time. So interesting.
Um, and the problem is most companies don't even realize deceptions occurred until a long time later when all of a sudden the person supposed to be getting the money calls up and says, I never was paid. We came and painted your association, never got the money. What happened? And he said, well, I got an email from you that said, send it to Bank of America, send it to Citibank. We sent it to Citibank. I never sent it. And now all of a sudden they're out of luck. It's so easy to do it. It's so easy to pick up the phone and get that information from people because people are trusting. It's
Hmm.
easier to do that than it is to hack. There
Yeah.
historically has been no coverage for this kind of claims. Now social engineering is the new coverage that's available to pick up these kind of situations.
hmm And Kevin, I've even heard in some situations that they're able to copy an email signature and make it look like totally authentic, like a business's email or a person's email, etc. And phone numbers too.
Yeah, and one thing to be careful of is that you get these emails all the time and say, hey, if you wish to unsubscribe to discontinue, click here. What that really is that sometimes it's legitimate, but other times people do that for one reason. They want to find out if that email address is still active. So
Oh,
every time you click on it and says we want to unsubscribe, what you're saying to them is that guess what? It's a real email address. So be careful.
be careful of any emails. Always double check and don't click on something if you really don't know who it's from. Be careful. Yes.
Mhm.
Wow, and I just wanted to mention to everybody that our crime policy is on our website at kdisonline.com, so you can review our specimen policy for our crime policy. And if you have any questions about what we went over today, please send me an email to sbranson@kdins.com, and I'm happy to give you a phone call or email you an answer to your question. Now, Kevin, we talked about some great, interesting information today for a lot of people, some new trends and things that are going on with crime and crime insurance and community associations. Can you do an overall recap of what we discussed?
Sure. This is really about awareness. It's awareness about these coverages that's been out there for a number of years that most people don't even know they even exist. And technology is moving so fast that we have to create new coverages just to respond to the different things that are happening out there. Right now, social engineering coverage is brand new. It's not even, we're still working on the endorsement putting together in terms of how we're going to even start selling this coverage. Um, Things are moving fast, and we have to make sure that our insureds understand what's going on there, and that our insureds that are educated enough so that they can protect themselves from these kind of situations. So right now, be aware, times have changed, things have changed. Technology has made a huge difference in this business. So when you buy a crime policy, it has to be comprehensive.
Absolutely. And you have to be aware of all the different crimes that are happening so that your coverage is going to cover all these new crimes as well. Great. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so
Thanks
much
a lot.
for an
Sure.
interesting and very informative webinar. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed it. Please join us in October, on October 29th, as we discuss, is an umbrella necessary for community associations and why? And if you'd like a copy of today's presentation, my email address again is sbranson@kdins.com. And you can also listen to today's session again on our website. If you go on our homepage, you can listen to today's webinar and all of our past webinars by going on kdisonline.com. Have a great afternoon. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thank you.